You broke a lot of new ground last night. First Muslim mayor of New York.
Zohran Mamdani. Strong name. Sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings. Zohran. I gotta look that up. I think one of that evil spirit was called Zorro or something like that. I can't remember. But New York is the new Gotham City. And the reason I'm saying this is just because of his ideas. At the end of the day, it requires money. You can't just pull it out of thin air. Eventually, it's going to catch up. And we're seeing that within the last 2 to 3 years with inflation. Inflation caused a lot of problems for the first time ever. There's too much debt, too much money being circulated. And New York currently has, I believe, a $5 billion deficit. So when you're promising free childcare, free bus, free everything, it's like, oh, a freeze on rents. Why they never say freeze taxes? How about this? How about reduce property taxes on landlords and they'll reduce rents? You still want to eliminate rent in a sense of freezing it, but yet you still want to collect your taxes. It's just like in COVID. They told everyone not to pay rent. Don't pay rent because of the pandemic, and then they extended it. And no one, they never said you still had to pay your property taxes. They still want their money. But they'll never do that.
First Democratic Socialist, first mayor to win more than 1 million votes in, 3 decades, youngest mayor in more than a century. So what is the message and the mandate behind that?
The message is about transforming the most expensive city in the United States of America into one that's affordable for each and every New Yorker. And what New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs gave us last night was a mandate to pursue the most ambitious affordability agenda the city has seen since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia. And it's time that we start to deliver it.
Well, let's dig into that, because you're talking about a rent freeze, you're talking about free buses, you're talking about free childcare. Can you do that without raising taxes?
I think you can do that, and I think you have to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year, and you do that by raising taxes by them 2%. And then you also increase the corporate tax of New York State to match that of New Jersey. So that takes us from about 7.25 to about 11.5%.
And here's the thing. The top percentage of high incomers earned income are already paying a lot of taxes. So when people say they don't pay their fair share, that's a lie. They pay the highest taxes.
Is what we see in New Jersey. These things together raise about $9 billion, which more than pays for our economic agenda and also starts to Trump-proof our city.
But are you worried that could drive a lot of job creators out of New York?
So what I've heard from a number of business leaders is that the affordability crisis is also affecting their ability to attract and retain talent. The city's inability to provide childcare means that businesses often have to provide stipends for that childcare. Right now, the absence of universal childcare means that a family will pay around $22,500 a year.
There's a ripple effect to everything. When they increased minimum wage, you know what companies did? They reduced their staff. They reduced the staff so they use less people to do more work because they can't afford it. It doesn't make sense. So when you're saying childcare, where are the jobs? It's not feasible. New York is very expensive. It's not like a small, town out in bubblefuck. Like you gotta. It requires taking a lot of revenue, and if you're just giving it back, like you gotta incentivize people to actually go to work as well. Like we're still coming off of that COVID and, people didn't want to go back into the office. So it's still taking some time for people to realize, like, listen, I got to go back into the office. And now you want to do free bus. Okay. If it's free, where's the money coming from? What else? Rent freeze. So you want to freeze rents, and then you want to continue to increase property taxes. Okay.
which is more money than many of them would spend if they sent that same kid to college 18 years later. And it is time for city government to actually step up to the responsibility that it has.
Not just the city government, that kind of a tax increase is going to require the state as well, including the governor, Kathy Hochul. Is she on board?
I'm proud to have Governor Kathy Hochul's endorsement and the endorsement of our agenda, specifically universal child care. And I've said time and again, I think these are the two most direct and straightforward ways to raise this revenue. If there are other ways to raise this funds,
The government is not your mommy and daddy. The government is not your mommy and daddy. You should be making decisions for your life. And this is why I'm an advocate of not having free health care. Because what do you give up for that? Is it going to be a long line? You got to wait 2 to 3 months in some of these other countries like Canada. What else? Are you only allowed to stay within a certain zip code? You won't be able to go see any doctors that you want out of your network. It's already hard as it is with the current insurance that's out in the market. Some people are restricted. What if you don't want to go within your area? Everything that seems free and good comes with a price. And this is what a lot of y'all don't understand. It sounds good. You want to be in control. It comes at a cost. So then when you see your paycheck and you're like, oh my God, so much taxes are being taken out. And then you're looking like, yeah.
the most important thing is that we actually fund this agenda.
You said that President Trump was watching you last night. It appears that he was watching you. And it also appears that he and other Republicans are trying to make you the poster boy of the Democratic Party. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, calls you a true extremist and a Marxist. And he says now every House Democrat incumbent and candidate will co-own Mamdani's disastrous record in the 2026 midterms. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm looking forward to showing the power of an example here in New York City, an example of what it means to not just diagnose the despair in working people's lives as the cost of living crisis, but to deliver on it. And that's the contrast between myself and President Trump. He's someone who ran an entire presidential campaign on the promise of cheaper groceries and is now, as the president, making it harder for Americans to afford those groceries by cutting SNAP benefits.
You worried he's going to crack down on New York City, maybe even do what he's done and tried to do in Portland and other cities, call the National Guard in?
I think that his threats are inevitable. I also know that it's time we actually call this for what it is. This has nothing to do with safety. It has to do with intimidation. If it was safety, President Trump would be threatening to deploy the National Guard to the top 10 states of crime, 8 out of which are all Republican-led, but because of that party, he won't actually be doing so.
So you say you won't be intimidated. How do you stand up to it?
I think there's a number of ways. The first thing is you actually utilize the courts. You stop treating things as being law just by virtue of the fact President Trump saying them. You can look at the example of California, where you find the Attorney General, the Governor, and the Mayor of LA coming together, filing a lawsuit in opposition to the deployment of the National Guard. A federal judge found in their favor, and the Attorney General estimated that for every dollar they spent, they recovered more than $30,000 in funds that would have otherwise been seized by the federal government.
How about crime? Have you convinced Commissioner Tisch to stay on the police commissioner?
I've made my decision to retain Commissioner Tisch, and I've done so because Eric Adams had stacked the upper echelons of the NYPD with incompetence and corruption. She came in, started to tackle that, deliver accountability, and reduce crime across the 5 boroughs. That is what we would build upon under a Mamdani administration, in addition to
Reduce crime. They were just letting people out of prison. This whole bail reform stuff. That's why crime was so high. Ugh. You can't listen to what these. Okay. We will see. A lot of promises.